Yeah, this is unbelievable.
You'd be shocked to learn that over the past 2 years, I've received more than 20 different e-bikes, but on my channel, I've only reviewed one. And that's because e-bikes are just weird. Many of the companies that make these are kind of unknown, and many of these products are absolute crap, and I would never spend my own money on them. I've had everything from brakes that sounded like they belonged on a semi, to cracked frames, chains that split in two while I was driving them, but fortunately this video is to show you a real winner. This is a brand new e-bike called the Haybike Explore. You can see how large this thing is. In fact, for years, I rode many different motorcycles, and this kind of reminded me more of an electric motorcycle than a typical e-bike. If you're a bigger person or you just want a larger bike, this is definitely a good choice. You've got knobby tires, even the electric motor in this thing is 750 watts. But too much power is exactly what's wrong with a lot of these e-bikes. You can't really control them. Now I've ridden so many, I've noticed one of the biggest issues is the throttles are so jerky. You turn them, you kind of take off, and they're almost even uncontrollable at times. Immediately what I noticed with this one is, you can turn this throttle just a small amount and you will just creep forward. This is really unusual. I'm not sure if they do it through software or just a different type of control, but it is super smooth. The entire frame is made of aluminum. Now this front rack is optional. They included this with my demo unit, but it is really cool. Now e-bikes can kind of look weird, but I like the way this one looks overall, and you've got tons of room for bags. If you're going to use this thing for work or commuting, this would definitely be an ideal choice. You've also got front and rear discs. Now these are mechanical discs and they're not hydraulic, and that might upset some people, but I felt that the brakes work fine and they were totally squeak free. Front and rear fenders are standard on this model, and you've also got a full suspension seat, and they even include a bottle holder. Now these things might not seem like a big deal, but you're not going to find those on many different e-bikes. They also have the motor completely enclosed in the back, and it puts out 750 watts. They've got a really cool design about the battery. You put the key in a certain position, you can actually flip up the seat, and now you can completely remove the battery. Now this does a couple of things. If you're going to load it in the back of a truck, you just shaved off about 30 pounds from the total weight. And if you're working, say, in an office, you can actually charge that battery independently of the bike and have it ready for your ride home. You probably also noticed it on the frame. It's got a step-through design. This is super popular on rentals because it fits everybody, it's comfortable, and even though it might not look like a regular bike, it's a lot easier to get on and off this thing. Another standout feature is the display. It is monochrome, but it's super clear, it's bright, even in full sun. And you've also got controls to change the speed settings. You've got a battery gauge. Keep in mind this is still a real bicycle. It's got Shimano controls. It's a 7-speed, and you can shift gears up or down right from that control on the right-hand side of the handlebars. You're going to buy this thing for the electric power it can give you, because this one, you don't have to pedal at all. You can run totally on the electric motor. Now if you do that, this thing has a range of about 55 miles. But if you do a little bit of pedaling, they say you can extend this thing to around 70 miles. And this bike is big, but it's also big on power and output. The battery is a lithium-ion type. It puts out 20 amp hours of capacity, and it's running at 48 volts. This bike has built-in lighting. It's got a 4 LED headlight that's really bright, along with a tail light. But additionally, that's connected to the brakes, so it will act like a full brake light when you squeeze it. And the blinking you're seeing here, unfortunately, is just an effect of the camera. It's solid normally, and it'll rapidly blink as soon as you hit the brake handle. Another plus with this one is you've got full front suspension. Now you can lock this, which is going to be handier if you're on hard pavement, because you're going to want to keep the suspension stiff. But if you live in an area like I do, you're definitely going to use that suspension to soften the ride. Great. Now personally, I like the way this bike looks, except for the seat. This thing just looks kind of weird to me, and I probably change this out, but I have to admit it was really comfortable riding it, so maybe that's what's more important. Now charging this thing is super easy. They give you the AC adapter. You just plug it right into the bike. It does have a fan inside the charger, and you can charge this thing from 0 to 100% in about 7 hours. Now all those previous bikes I rode failed during the road test. Some of them couldn't even make it. Others just had problems along the way or were just way too noisy and it couldn't be corrected. With this one, I started riding around. I jammed those brakes on and they did not make a sound.
But now I'm applying both brakes. Not one squeak.
I can't tell you how annoying it is when you buy a brand new bike to have brakes just squealing and squealing right out of the box.
So as you can see, my driveway, I got rocks. I got a mess.
Now this is definitely telling me that if you want to take this thing on trails, a little bit of light off-roading, this would be a really good choice. This bike felt super solid. It's going to be perfect for somebody that needs to carry a lot of stuff with them, commute, or they just want to have a big overall bike that they feel more comfortable on. Now, it had no problems at all on these dirt roads, which tells me that on pavement, this thing is going to have no issues whatsoever. One thing about New Hampshire is they definitely know how to handle their dirt roads. This thing almost looks like concrete, but this is really compressed dirt, and it's actually pretty smooth on a bike, but there's still loose rocks and all kinds of hazards. But again, this bike was doing fine, and I could easily take this bike on, say, a 20 or even a 30-mile trip, and I really wouldn't think twice about it.
Gotta be honest, even the third level on this thing, it's a little bit too much boost for me. I'm gonna switch it to 2.
The other huge plus I found with this bike is power. These hills that I live off of are super steep. I can't use any type of skateboard or electric scooters on them because they just run out of juice. This bike cruised up here without any problems at all. But in terms of negatives, nothing is perfect, and the only things I really found wrong with this bike are the price is expensive. They retail this for $18.99, and right now it looks like you can get it for $16.99, but that's still a lot of money. And all e-bikes are heavy, but this one is big. It weighs 102 pounds, so you're not going to easily be lifting this up onto a rack or even a pickup truck without a little bit of help, but at least you could take the battery out and that would lighten the load a bit. My final thoughts on this bike is this is definitely a great choice. If you want something that can do a little bit of light off-roading, a bigger bike that can carry all your stuff and you, this is definitely going to be a winner. I had zero problems with this bike, and I would jump on this thing in a second if I wanted to go anywhere because this thing was a lot of fun and it could handle the power that it actually has, and it made it a really good experience.